Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode. I'm really excited for this episode, because I'm joined by a little mini. I think you're a little mini celebrity.
Oh,
Because I see you're like, yeah, of course, so keep them coming, sweetie.
I'll take that.
So I'm joined this morning by, and just before we kind of introduce you, and it'd be great to find out a bit more about you, Michael. But I love what you're doing on LinkedIn. I think the energy you bring, the kind of messages that you're sharing, are just so inspiring. Also, I loved your Hoopla outfit, by the way, just side note, because I was also at Hoopla. Next year, you have to tell me, and we have to meet up at Hoopla, because I love it, and I know you spoke about it as well. But Michael, do you want to introduce yourself to my listeners?
Yeah, sure. So, my name's Michael, and I work in the HR space, so predominantly people partnering, for the last couple of years. I'm also 7 years sober as well, and I talk a lot about that on LinkedIn. And yeah, I've got a background in, say, retail, like people management, etc. as well. And just, a big advocate for being sober and, also gay. And just sharing, I think, my experience with being gay, being sober, in the workplace and just in life, you know, and the interactions that that seems to have with people. So yeah.
And tell me about the accent. So where's
home?
home?
From Scotland as well.
Okay, whereabouts in Scotland?
Edinburgh.
I love Edinburgh.
Stunning,
like,
right?
The vibe. Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming onto the show, and let's get into it. So the first thing you wanted to talk about, the topic you wanted to check in, was about sobriety in the workplace. Tell me a little bit more about that. Why did you choose that topic? What's that mean to you?
Interesting. Well, so I've been at Manchester Pride this weekend, and it was interesting, like having conversations with different people, because I walked in the parade with a friend of mine who works for Lloyds Bank,
Right.
And there was a lot of conversation just around the sort of focus on alcohol in the workplace, you know, and it's just, I find it really, really interesting that a lot of work events, then just the main event is alcohol.
Okay.
It's not really to do with networking. It's not really to do with getting to know each other. It seems to be like the full topic of conversation. It seems to be what is the sort of go-to when it comes to organising like a work event, etc. And I just feel like for me in HR, obviously a lot of the times we do end up organising these events. It just seems like such a cop-out to me, and quite a dangerous one as well. And I feel that it's something that there's not a lot of thought that goes into it, or, you know, those that struggle with either being around alcohol or their own, like, you know, journey with alcohol and sobriety as well. And just having alternatives, either within non-alcoholic alternative options like available when they do these things, or just creating events that aren't the focus isn't alcohol, and there's more focus on building those relationships across different teams, etc., in a more fun and inclusive way, you know?
I love that. I have a long complex history with alcohol, and I love the focus you're bringing in the workplace. My history with alcohol is really complicated on the basis that I'm Muslim, and so we didn't grow up around alcohol growing up. But I agree with you that every social interaction I went to at work involved alcohol. I think because I'm also, identify as a gay man, and I think when I came out, I almost got access to a part of society that I wouldn't have had if I was just like a straight Muslim person, because that, so I think that kind of gave me an access to the socialization space that meant that alcohol was much more prevalent. And we know in the gay community, we have much higher challenges with drugs and alcohol as well. So there's all that kind of happening. I agree fully with you. What I've seen recently in kind of some of the things that I've been involved in is people going not too far the other way, because I think sobriety is should be normalised.
Yeah.
And we don't normalise it. That's what I see. What I see is people are almost like, oh, and it's almost like they're like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just think that's really interesting.
Yeah.
And I think with sobriety, just as it I have a lot of people, because I was in inclusion, so my last role was I was director of inclusion, and they were like, well, we can't have alcohol at this event because we want to include everyone. And I'm like, is there not like a happy medium here, which is
exactly.
and so what's your thoughts on that? Like, because why are we like so weirdly like, oh, sweetie.
I know.
Do you know what I mean?
I feel like sad for you, and I'm like, don't. I'm having a better time than I ever have.
100%.
And there's that sort of stereotype, as in like, if you don't drink, like you don't like to go out. You're dead boring.
Right.
You know, you don't like to, you know, go out for a dance or do whatever you would normally do. And I think it's then trying to. And that's why I'm so visible and talk about this a lot, is that, you know, as much as like, you know, I don't drink anymore, and it has been hard, you know, to actually get to a place where I do feel comfortable, you know, going out to Manchester Pride all weekend, for example, like my two best friends, like we're out till all hours in the morning, dancing about, you know, in bar pop, like singing it, and yeah, I can still do all those things, and I still enjoy doing all those things.
Yeah.
And you know, some sober people don't, and that's fine. And it's just, but if you flip that around, it's like, people who drink alcohol, some people they don't like going out. Some of them just like to, you know, sit in and have a wine and watch and read a book or whatever it is. And it's just the automatic assumption that, you know, you don't drink, so one, there's something wrong with you. One, you're like a very troubled soul,
Yes.
and or that, you know, you're strange in some sort of way, you know. And it's just not the same as like, you know, if you were to sort of, you know, do you want a cigarette? Oh no, I'm fine. And you're not going to be like,
Oh, I know.
you know, well, why? You know, I think like it's just it's like it's a health choice. It could, you know, there's lots of different reasons, but it's just such a, I think it's ingrained to our culture in the UK.
Yeah,
it's just so normalised, and I think to the point where you're normalising something that then is quite dangerous and quite you know, has a lot of serious consequences for people. And yeah, I think it's just so strange, that mentality when it comes to it. So and I just think that it's not needed. It's not needed to ask why. It's not needed. You don't. I think I get a lot of stick for this as well, because I think even for people who don't drink, have kind of came at me in the comments a little bit about my sort of, I don't feel like there is a need to ask why. And a lot of people are like, well, I'm very proud of my sobriety. Like, people can ask me why, etc., etc. And I'm the same. Like, I'm, you know, 7.5 years sober. Like, you can ask me why, that's totally fine. But that's very different to somebody who is 2 days sober, you know, a month sober.
Yeah, of course.
And it's
every journey,
you know, and I feel like it's more for those people that, you know, you have to be a bit more, you have to put yourself back in those shoes. And I think that's where I think asking why can be quite damaging, and quite, you can actually make somebody feel very uncomfortable through that.
Yeah,
so it's just kind of, it's that whole thing, and you can apply that to a lot of situations where, why am I asking? You know, am I asking?
What is that about?
You know, am I adding value? Like, you know, it's
also. I don't know if you know, but like, you know, like when people die and people are just not obsessed with like, well, how did they die?
Yeah.
And I just think that's such an interesting, weird, curious question.
Yeah, and I'm like, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Got to do with like, you know, I just think it's interesting society, isn't it? And the kind of areas that we're really weirdly fascinated about. I think it's about being different. I think it's about choices, and, you know, I think it's when you're not in making choices that you see normalized in society, everyone's like, what's that about? You know, I think that's just really fascinating. It
just makes it a spectacle, and I think it makes it more than it needs to be, you know. So yeah.
So tell me more about, if people, my listeners, thinking, how can we make our workplaces perhaps more inclusive from a sobriety perspective? What kind of things, you know, how do you work with your business, for example? How, you know, how can you how can you take alcohol out of, not out of the equation, but what might you consider when you're thinking about running inclusive events?
I think, well, first of all, is you're running an event, you're running a sort of networking event, for example, and I think again, it's very automatic to be like, right, we'll go down to a bar, we'll go to a pub, we'll do this, you'll do that, you know. And I think it's very much like thinking outside the lines when it comes to that. It's like, is there another sort of venue that we could use that maybe it's less about the bar being the focus? Is there more, you know, you can go to Flight Club, for example, like still a bar, but it's got some sort of like games and activities and stuff that you can then use. So then you've just got something to keep everybody occupied.
Yeah.
And again, if it's more like gamifying it,
Yeah, I
in
like
a
that.
way,
I
you're
like
going to
that.
bring people together.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you're, drinking or not drinking. It's then just about the fun and the atmosphere of being in a team.
Yeah.
So I think that for me, it's just like, can you like look at the venue? Can you sort of gamify it in some sort of way? And then again, the non-alcoholic options. It's just, I will die on this hill. It's not good enough to just offer like a no shade Heineken if you're
J2O.
listening, but like Heineken Zero, why is it always the
Oh
Heineken
my god, you're so
Zero?
right. 0% alcohol,
yeah,
beer, whatever.
you know.
I don't like beer.
I know, and that's the thing.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
drink it if it's there, but I feel like I'm drinking it because it's the only option that I have, and I don't necessarily like it.
Yeah.
And then again, I get a lot of stick for this because say I went to like the Edinburgh Fringe Festival recently, and it was literally like a Heineken Zero or I can't even remember what the other one was, but say it was like an Erdringer. Again, it's just very
Yeah.
similar things.
Yeah.
Whereas you've got a wall full of like 16 different flavors
types
of gin.
Yeah,
And I'm
so
like,
true.
all I'm asking
Yeah.
for is like a 0% gin, one.
Yeah,
You know?
100%.
That'd be great.
And Gordon's do that, right?
I know,
so
and
yeah,
it's
I mean,
nice.
yeah, that sounds like 100%.
That's really nice. But then you get the people and probably saying, well, you don't drink. Why would you want like an alternative like gin? And it's a fair question, but it's again like I enjoy the taste
Yeah.
of something like that.
Yeah.
It has that sort of placebo effect
Yeah,
as
absolutely.
well.
Yeah.
But it makes you feel less othered. It
Yeah,
makes you feel less
absolutely.
on display.
Yeah, 100%.
And for me, I don't want to be drinking soft drinks all night.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just nice to have a bit of variance. And it's as we talk about meeting in the middle, where if you're offering wines, beers, all types of spirits, you got your gins, you got your vodkas, you got your rums, etc., and you're offering one non-alcoholic beer, it's not meeting in the middle,
I hear you. Yeah, I hear you.
And you get, we could have a water. I'm like,
Oh no, yeah. Oh, do you remember J2O? J2O was like the only option for a long time because when I was like, I don't drink. Like, have a J2O.
I'm like,
And I'm
wow,
like,
have we
right,
juice
okay.
pop, know?
Yeah, basically, yeah. Like, have a J2O, and I'm like, right, okay.
Yeah.
And now so I've gone home with like extra sugar now. Like I'm literally like
Wired.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I can't have a Red Bull anymore at all.
Oh
like,
god. Oh, Red Bull
it's-
was the thing as well, wasn't it? Do you remember?
Yeah, it's just like, have a Red Bull, and I'm like, I can feel my heart.
Yeah,
like,
no,
I'm,
I can't.
like, no, it's too much.
It's like too much.
So it's just thinking about the options that you're supplying as well, and
Yeah.
I think it's it's even of where I am at the moment. I'm in financial services, and very
Yeah, I can imagine.
heavy drinking
Yeah,
culture.
yeah.
And it's like client meetings, client dinners, etc. Very much booze, and it's even then the wording of say some of our social comms and changing it from like we do things like a sort of Friday social
Right.
after work, and
Yeah.
finish a bit early, have a bit of a social before the weekend, etc. And it's just changing that from like Friday drinks to Friday social. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It's not. I'm not changing the world here.
But it's language.
But
and that's
again,
yeah.
and it's from feedback, not just from people who don't drink, but from people who do drink, who don't necessarily want to drink at work,
Yeah.
or they
Yeah.
don't want to just go with the focus of drinking. It's more, I want to like socialise with the people I work with, the people I don't normally work with as well. I want to get to know them, want
Yep,
to get to know
yep.
someone who's new. And it's more, if we could change the word into social, then that's what's on people's minds and that's what they think about.
Yeah, no, that's
So, yeah,
really powerful.
just
And-
like small things you can do.
but
like
really
that.
impactful things as well.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So there's lots there. I think that's such a helpful call to action to think about ways that we can engage with each other that don't revolve around wine or beer or having like going down to the pub. And I think there's something that I've been reflecting on recently. Like there's almost a sense of Britishness with going to the pub, or it's almost people feeling like that sense of Britishness is eroding. And I say this because at the moment, obviously the race riots last year, race relations is not good in this country right now, and I'm really passionate advocate about tackling that, because not having a drink or not engaging in a drinking activity does not mean that I'm not British. It doesn't mean that I'm any less British. And so there's real connotations there about how we can bring people together in a way that doesn't erode our sense of
like community.
You know, do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting.
It's funny that actually, because I got a comment the other day being like, because I was talking about the Edinburgh Festival, and it was like, call yourself Scottish, like
What with your
pipe down and have an iron brew.
Oh,
and I was like,
stop.
all right, okay.
No,
But again, it's like
Yeah.
you have to. If you're Scottish, you should, like obviously enjoy drinking. I was like, I did enjoy drinking too much, That was maybe I was too Scottish, So yeah, I totally agree with you. It's as if then you're going against what is expected of you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it's a societal kind of norm almost. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, really, really, really impactful. Tell me about your second topic. I mean, I'm so excited to hear more from you on this. But pride, So pride beyond pride. Tell me why you chose that particular theme to talk about.
Do you know what? I think it's because I was doing like a bit of self-reflection, like on myself, obviously, and
Self-reflection.
then myself, and it's just because, as I said, just been at Manchester Pride at the weekend there. Also went to Brighton Pride as well. Saw Mariah.
Oh, wow, you're making the rounds.
Making the
I
rounds.
love it.
I know. I'm knackered.
I'm not surprised.
I'm knackered.
Well, so how was Mariah? Because I've heard mixed reviews.
But she ultimate stan here, so
Yeah.
let's I like names and addresses of whoever
Doesn't like her, yeah.
negatively. She was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, she's a vibe. I love how she's like, I don't age. I was like, this is the energy I need in my life.
yeah
Like-
iconic. So yeah, I think so, and then it was Mighty Hoopla as well, and I think it's then coming to the end of that now. I think Manchester Pride, like, correct me if I'm wrong, is what, like, if not the last
Yeah,
one,
it
or
is.
the
Yeah, I
last
think
one
it
of
is,
the calendar. And then it was sort of thinking like, oh, like that's, really sad. And then, I have to wait until next year to sort of
Celebrate being you.
celebrate,
Yeah.
or being like proud of myself, and like, or proud of the community I come from, or advocating for, everything that's going on in the landscape at the moment,
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's just sort of thinking, well, why, just because Pride Month and the Pride celebrations, are at an end, that is not the time to stop talking about it. If anything, it's the time to start talking about it, and
100%.
talk about it a lot more than during those months as well.
Yeah.
And I think coming back to being in HR, it's something that I've really noticed. It's like the same with Black History Month. It's the same as, International Women's Day.
Yeah.
Let's put on a webinar on those days around in that month, and that'll be that. Tick that box. Let's move on.
Yeah.
But it's not about that, and I actually think it's more impactful to have these conversations and to, be doing a lot more in those spaces under those themes, out with the sort of calendar month. What's expected of you that time. Because at the end of the day, then it's just, you're just ticking a box.
Yeah.
You're just, it doesn't, I think it doesn't land as well as, and I feel like if you're doing it just because you have to do it, it's the same with drinking a Heineken Zero, because if you have to do
absolutely.
it and you don't want to do it, it's like it's not what you should be doing. And I think it's then reminding yourself, what are we doing this for? We're doing this to sort of spread awareness, we're doing this to educate, we're doing this to try and make some change in whatever's going on in the world. And that doesn't stop.
Because at the end of a Pride Month. I hear that. I really do. I mean, I really hear that for a number of reasons. I think performative gestures when it comes to D&I, there's a lot of at the moment, or we now seeing things rolling back where they're like, we're not doing this anymore, we're not funding Pride initiatives, we're not, so that's really sad as well to see that. That's just kind of like, it goes up and down, like, oh, we can be celebrated, oh, okay, like it's almost like that agency is taken away from that community that is there to kind of support and promote. What's your take on when we think about intersectionality, when it comes to these types of events? Because, I'm a proud gay man, but I'm also a proud Muslim, and I think that actually companies and organizations almost become one-dimensional when it's like, we'll celebrate this part of the community, we'll celebrate Pride, we'll celebrate this, we'll celebrate that. How can we how can we bring more inclusion outside of these awareness raising sessions when we think about the whole year round? What does that look like? What do you think that we can do there?
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because, again, like coming from a white gay man perspective, it's then how I think that narrative overshadows a lot.
Okay.
You know, and I think it's then there's a lot when it comes to what we're talking about when it comes to inclusion and who we're talking about, and like you say, like what does that look like? And so I think for me, definitely it comes from speaking to those within the community, you know, who are from different backgrounds, and understanding, I think the landscape is very important as well, like to understand what's going on, you know, in the UK at the moment and worldwide, and getting different voices and with the lived experience in. And I think to really, I always try to, if we're doing something like a fireside chat, or if we're doing you know, some sort of workshop, it's then obviously you within the space that, you know, we work in, we have a vision of what we could possibly do or how you want to do it, but it's then, is that comfortable for them?
Those
like what topics do you want to talk about, and what do you feel is actually more appropriate to talk about in this moment? Because, you know, we sort of theme different things every year, but is that the most appropriate, is that the most impactful, and actually what is it within your community that we should be talking about, you know, and people should know?
I love that, because actually what you've just described there is co-creation, and I don't think we do enough of that. So that's a really powerful reflection that you've offered. I know your views on the trans community. You're very trans inclusion, and so am I. And I think it's important that when we talk about Pride and Beyond Pride Month, that we do talk about the trans community.
Yeah.
Because that community is under attack at the moment.
100%.
You know, and I think we all, you know, I certainly feel a sense of taking action in some shape, way or form. What are your thoughts on how employers can look at when it comes to trans inclusion? Like, what's your take on trans inclusion right now in the workplace?
I find it so bizarre, like how much of a hot topic it is.
Yeah,
you know,
and
it's just like
I totally get
there's
that.
so much going on in the world.
I know,
and it's just,
and that we're focusing on how much percent of the population.
Yeah,
we've got genocide going on. We've got awful world leaders who are literally ripping our rights away. You've got all these things, and we're focusing on this tiny little community.
Yeah, and also very specifics within that tiny little community as well. You know, it seems to be like trans women are, you know, getting it stronger.
Yes.
When within that community as well, you know, you've got black trans individuals, like what they go through.
Yeah.
That's not highlighted as much as I feel like it should be.
Yeah, I agree.
Trans men as well, I feel like that's sort of missing in the narrative. So I just, for me, again, it's a topic I'm very passionate about, but it's a topic that I feel that I'm, you know, when it comes to workplace and what we could do more, I'm always, again, when that co-creation side of things, you know, and I think it's then what can we do to help? What do we, because I think I know, like, roughly from my own perspective, but again, then I'm a white gay man, very privileged position to be in, unfortunately. Fortunately, you know, it's I know it's a strange way to say that, but you know what I mean. But it's for me, it's trying to understand, like, what is helpful in this moment. Is it you know, there's a lot when it comes to and again, being in financial services, you've got some of the big banks at the moment taking away sort of the rights to use different bathrooms. Right. You've then got other big banks who internally will be, you know, very supportive, but will not write that down. You know, they will not have a policy on it, and they will not share that externally.
Yeah.
So it's then, you know, it's again, what's more impactful, like what will really help, you know, to sort of, again, spread that message of awareness and that education that people desperately need in this multitude of misinformation that's out there at the moment, like the whole Marks and Spencer's thing. It's just beyond. And I just feel like there's so much clickbait when it comes to this topic that people are so confused, and it's just, you know, I just feel like the education and the awareness is just, you know, but you need big corporations, and you need a lot of people with a lot of following to really get behind that as well, and to really speak on that. I think it's so important.
100%. And you know, you reminded, and all of that, so 100% to all of this. And when you talked about black trans women, you know, we forget the Stonewall kind of movement happened because black trans women who resisted the kind of police raids in New York sparked the global movement that we all benefit from today. So I firmly stand with the trans community, and it's great to hear reflections, as you rightly say, about, you know, all the kind of the noise that there is right now, and about the support that we can be doing, because it's a dark time. It's difficult times.
100%.
Tell me about your final theme about visibility. What's that mean to you?
Just, I think for me, well, it means for me, like, I'm very taking a while. Just very proud to be gay, very proud to be sober. Whoop, whoop. Snaps for me. But I think what I mean by visibility is that there's, you know, and I think coming from the messages I receive on LinkedIn and, you know, other platforms as well, the impact of me just being me, you know, and being proud of these elements in my life, it really helps others who, you know, are going through, going through so many things, you know, really struggling with either their identity, struggling with, struggling with problems with alcohol, and sharing and being that sort of visible, presence, within talking through my approach to these things, you know, how I've dealt with different things over the years, and being very transparent about those topics. It just, that ripple effect, it just goes on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you might have an impact on one person, they'll then have an impact on another person.
Absolutely.
And And I just think that for, you know, when I was younger, well, still young.
I was gonna say,
you know, when I was younger, 16, 10 years ago.
Like, what, yesterday? Happy 16th,
I didn't go to Pride. You know, I felt like, oh, that's embarrassing. I'm not going to get Edinburgh Pride. Have they got Michelle McManus? I was like, no. No shade, Michelle. If you're listening. I love you.
She was an icon. I mean, she was always
saw her at My Hit Lash, was incredible.
It was X Factor, Michelle McManus.
No, it was Pop Idol.
Oh, God.
Pop Idol. Yeah, don't know how I know that, because I'm so young. But get back. Well, I was like, what am I talking about?
When you were younger.
Yeah, didn't go. I thought, like, oh, going to Pride's embarrassing. And I think because I was so badly bullied at school, it was like that shame that was attached to that. But then going to these Pride celebrations, like, you don't have to obviously get dressed up in the way that, you know, like other people do. You know, I'm there in a crop top, like homo and whatever else on it. And, you know, but there's so many different ways that you can be visible, but you're just showing up to 100%. Something. And I think that it's just so important. And I really, I wish that I had done that a lot earlier, and, you know, gotten involved in the conversation a lot earlier. And I think trying to let go of that shame that was attached to getting bullied, or, you know, getting put down for having a problem with alcohol or whatever that may be, to then step into, you know, your own light,
100%.
and just be like, you know, I'm you know, here, queer, sober, visible, like, and I just go back to the fact that being that, even if it helps one person, like, you know, then great. You know, you've probably helped, like, transform someone else's life. And I just think it's so important, again, to be visible for yourself, but to also stand up and be visible for others within the community that, you know, you're part of too.
I love that. Really inspiring. And you're amazing. You're visible. I love what you're doing. I think it's so great that you're talking not just about being the queer experience, but about the sober experience as well. And I think there's just more of that, like, you know, as you rightly say, if it sparks change in one person, you know, the impact is massive. So thank you so much for sharing so generously about, you know, you and your kind of story. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. I'm really excited. I can't believe it's the first time I've actually seen you IRL as well, which is like weird because I said to you earlier, like, feels like I've like known you forever and like just been with you forever. It's been such a joy to have you.
No, thank you so much for having me on, and you're like a big inspiration for me as well. So,
okay. No, I find it weird when people say stuff like that still, because I'm a bit like, I'm like you. It's like just be you, right?
That's it.
And I think it's people like you that I see on my network as well that make me more confident to step into kind of my kind of, as you said, the light, right, of yourself. So thank you for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure. Thank you to all my listeners. And yeah, that's a wrap. Thanks, everyone.